Day 3 of the April 98 7-day retreat in Springwater. It is so difficult to realize that awareness, presence, being here happens completely on its own, spontaneously. The overlaying assumption being, or overlying assumption, I have to do something to get there. But that's not what I was going to talk about. It just came up. I was going to start with how the meeting started last night. Somebody saying, and please let me insert here, I do not remember verbatim what people say. Also, since other people often say similar things about the same thing, there is sort of a convergence in this mind, which does not indicate that you weren't listened to at the time. So, someone saying something like this: in listening to a talk, eventually there is some awareness of subtle judgments about myself due to what is said in the talk. As though you were speaking to me, criticizing me, judgmental of what I'm doing or thinking. That's what the person says. Discovering these subtle judgments of oneself. I shouldn't be this way. Because what is being said in the talk is about how one should be. Since I'm not like that, I must be wrong. I must be judged. Sort of negative judgmental feelings arising about oneself. And then another subtle line of thinking, I shouldn't be judging. Judgment is bad, which is already a double dilemma. The body responds to all of that with ill feelings, discomfort. And then another line of thought saying, why not accept it all? All these lines of thinking and judging the judging, accept it all. Someone in the same meeting said, can all of these little trains of thought just be seen as they arise, or after they have arisen? Not identify with them. Not this is me, good me, bad me. And they will come and go. Sort of like dandelion seeds in the air, floating about, drifting, nowhere, finally out of sight. Someone else said, or asked, what is the root of all of that? The judging judging the judging, feeling the need to accept it all. And all the discomfort that goes with these subtle movements of me thoughts about myself, how I am, how I should be, how I am not. What's the root of it all? The first person said, if you see it all just as flotsam in the air, why ask for the root? Not necessary. Because in such open seeing, there is no root. There's no me. There's just whatever comes up and goes again. Yet it is also good to ask, what is, when one feels caught up in all of this judgment upon judgment and judging the judging, and the discomfort of it all. And what will they think of me? And how do they see me? And do they love me still if they find out how I am? Or maybe they've already found out, so they don't like me anymore. It's putting it coarsely, but this is going on for all of us, isn't it? So what is the root of it? Where do judgments about myself, or already hearing a talk and feeling judged, or feeling what I want to do, it sounds as though that was being judged. One person said something like this to me. How was it? Do you mean we should renounce our so human interest and curiosity in experiences, in richness of experiences? Do you feel that should all be renounced? I may not put it verbatim, but this was sort of how I heard it. And how the person heard what I said. So where do our reactions come from? I hear somebody says, go into this emptiness, stay with it, look at it, experience it, and watch the almost inevitable escape to richer experiences in fantasy. Watch it, observe it. And I hear I should renounce my desire for rich experiences. Where does that come from? From where are we listening most of the time? Not always, but most of the time. Aren't we listening from the me, the I perspective? We talked about it yesterday. Whatever is heard or seen or felt, automatically bringing oneself in relationship to it. I'm not saying this is bad or wrong, to watch it, to observe it, to uncover it as it happens. There was a woman teacher coming to a retreat once 10 years ago or so in California. She was a meditation teacher. And in the course of the retreat, she came to a meeting and said, I've never realized how whatever I look at, a tree, a cloud, or another person, I'm in there relating in my mind. No, how I relate to it. I bring myself into the picture. how I like it, how they affect me, what it is to me. I never realized that before. And in saying that, there was a real joyful energy of discovery. Not how bad I am to do that. That's the marvelous thing when something is really discovered. It releases a tremendous amount of energy that is tied up in maintaining our image of how we are and how we are not. The freedom to see it as it is at that moment the ending of defending it. So, where are we coming from in judging ourselves? And then judging the fact that we seem to be a judgmental person. Doesn't it all come from this intricate website of me? Websites have everything, the good websites have everything on them. The whole history, the pictures of the friends and what one likes, what one has written. I don't really study websites, but I saw our own website and it's terrific. Never knew we were this good. Colored pictures. I'm wearing a magenta-colored blouse, and it shines on that website. And other people in a beautiful cabin. Gorgeous, gorgeous picture. And what you can do here, what you have to, and so forth. History. The past. It belongs into a website. But this is what I see right now at this moment. It's a metaphor for this whole I network, the me, with all of its past impressions and painful and pleasurable memories. And what I want to be and what I want to happen to me. How I want other people to take me, to see me, to love me. Including what I'm afraid would happen or could happen to me. All the emotional packaging of past feelings. All that has been inherited, which is also memory passed on through the genes. What else is it? Talent is memory. Albeit unfolding in the present moment in an unpredictable way. But usually we like to stick with the predictable because it gives us a seeming security. What's predictable about me and you and my life. And this is where we dwell. And from there, is it from there that we listen to each other and look at each other with all of our wishes and fears and apprehensions? The past hurts ready to vibrate with the present slighting. Someone says something and I feel affected. She's talking about me. I shouldn't be like this. I don't want to be like this. I shouldn't judge. It's endless. It's entanglement in a web of thoughts and pictures and all that goes with it. Now this is explanation, allegory, metaphor. And I think all of us realize just knowing this, and it's making sense. Maybe and finds the metaphor fits. But that's not enough to go to the root. It's a description of the root. So at the moment of coming upon these subtle movements of judgment and judgment of judgment, can there be a shift out of the entanglement in that and the discomfort of it? Not just thinking I should accept it all, because then there is me, the acceptor. Most of the time, maybe one uses the word acceptance, just beholding it all, seeing it all. And where does that seeing come from? Out of an idea that I should see it all, accept it all? Or is it free and clear of ideas? The judgments and feelings just reverberate in the memory now, or in space, in empty, silent, alive space. We've talked a few times already about silent space, in which there is awareness spontaneously. It's there. It doesn't need to be brought up with effort. It's there. And several people have mentioned either coming upon it or wanting that silent space. Wanting to have it, wanting to find it. Is it possible for a moment to see this reverberation of judging oneself, judging others, the misery that goes with it, the enclosure in which it happens, to see it silently, spaciously, as it is happening or as it has happened, with no need to do anything about it. Well aware of the urge that comes up from our conditioned website to do something about this stuff that shouldn't be, and to let that urge to do something be included in silent, aware space, which is there. It's always there. The moment the clouds part, here's the sun. Happened this morning, a very darkish, cloudy morning, and the moment the clouds parted, there was gold and light, and everything that touched it was illuminated by it in a glorious way. Somebody asked me this morning, does this work, like all religious work, need some faith? Person said, I don't mean blind faith, just faith. Maybe without that faith, whether it's put into words or not, we wouldn't be here, sitting quietly together, spending a week together, cooking for each other, cleaning, sitting, inquiring, walking. Why? So many people say, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what brings me here all the time, over the many years. Even though a good deal of the time I'm uncomfortable or bored, or it's just so ordinary, nothing special. Do we have faith that the sun is there, whether the clouds are covering it or not? Or is that a fact? Don't even need to have faith in it. It shows itself time and time again that it is so, no matter how dreary it feels. And at times, not so much here in Springwater, but there are places where I've lived where the clouds don't part for 3 or 4 weeks. It's dreary and coldish and wettish. I said at the beginning that this beautiful fact that there's always light after darkness and darkness after light. That's how the days and nights proceed. And this marvel right now of having longer days. I experienced it as a child, this incredible longer time of light and less darkness, which then gives way to the opposite. So, is it helpful when somebody says awareness is always there, it needs no effort? It shines brightly when the clouds part, the clouds of the network, when that is apprehended, comprehended, seen for a moment for what it is. Insubstantial thought work, thought constructs, powerfully lined up with physical responses of the glands, of the organs, of the muscles. I woke up last night, some people had mentioned misunderstandings. Not that they felt these were misunderstandings, but what they had heard me say in a talk was not what I meant to say. Maybe I said it, but it was not the gist of it. And waking up in the middle of the night, the first thought, did I say something wrong? And instantly, you know it, you laugh. I mean, you smile. It takes no more than one thought to get this whole organism mobilized. And to be very discerning and not to be fooled that this discomfort, this agitation in the solar plexus or the heart beating faster, wherever one feels it, we've talked about it already in this retreat, the vivid feeling of it does not mean that there's truly something wrong. And that's very hard to discern because we gauge our feelings of right and wrong a lot on how we feel physically. When we feel very angry about someone, this strong feeling seems to indicate there's reason to be angry about this person because the accompanying storyline confirms it, and the feeling confirms the storyline. It's all one intricate network. With such reality given to it by this body, which is so close, so sensitive. So feelable, touchable, experienceable. Sometimes people tell me, I feel so numb, I feel nothing, I wish I could feel something. And that's what can also happen with the body. Too much pain, too early, too long, and the body learns to anesthetize itself, encapsule itself in some ways or other. And usually, when there is a start-up of feeling, of physical feeling, most people have told me the first thing that is felt is pain. Not joy, not pleasure, but pain. But very often, even with that, a gratitude that one feels something. Feeling something, even pain, is better than a numb, unfeeling body. So, why am I saying all this? Not to be deceived, or puts it in a question form, is it possible not to be deceived by thoughts about myself or others? Just because the body orchestrates these thoughts very realistically, to doubt it, to question it, wonder about it, whether this thought, this feeling is really telling the truth, and whether it's possible to come upon the truth of thoughts and feelings. Because very often people will also tell me this, how can you really know whether a thought is true or false, or a feeling is true or false? From where are we asking this question? Intellectually? Maybe the truth of thinking and corresponding feeling is that it happens and can be seen to be happening in a spacious context. This leads to that, and that leads to that. To see it all unfolding without this heavy identification. This is me, and me should be different. Identification, a big word, also being the thought, I am judgmental, I am whatever. Don't put in enough effort. I'm lazy, or I'm good at this. What is this I? Other than thought work. Find out, not to accept it, because somebody says it with a lot of intensity and passion. What is this I? Gives us so much grief, so much anxiety, so much pleasure and feelings of power. Oh, the whole 9 yards. I want to come back to what one person particularly asked, and maybe this question is in other people's minds. In saying, in a talk, see what's going on, the judgment, judging, the judgment, the misery, and no need to do anything about it. What happens with phrases like this, no need to do anything about it, The brain may remember this phrase, it may not remember the context in which it was said, also a context in which we're silently looking together. And then the brain puts that sentence into another context. You mean in my daily life, in my home, I should do nothing? Should let everything happen? And it becomes confusing because another thought says, I should be active. I should do things about things and people and myself. So, what do we mean by doing nothing? Of course, the context in this case was a meditative looking and inquiring and discovering. Maybe even discovering that nothing needs to be done. Not because somebody says it, but it is so. Everything happens on its own. The unfolding and the defolding of problems, if really freely, spaciously observed, problems unfold and defold, disappear. In our daily work and interaction with each other, taking right here at the center, we have lots of staff meetings in which decisions have to be made, trustees meetings. All the little problems and medium-sized problems and huge prospects maybe of adding more room, more facility. Whether to buy a tractor or not, how to use the surplus, if there is any. Usually there is. We're not sitting around in such a meeting and saying there's nothing to be done. Let's just meditate. I think the best possible way, which is not always possible for everybody at the same time, but it works, is to look at the situation as dispassionately as possible. Again, minus the website, although that can be there, but not as the middle of the whole discussion. What I need, what I am afraid of, what I want, and what I don't want. That not at the center of the consideration, but as one of the multiple ingredients, multiple things to be considered and to be weighed and thought about. And it's possible. It's possible for that to happen. Not, I should renounce myself. That's nonsense. Either there is some real need or desire for something, then to acknowledge it and have it there in the picture, but not dominating the picture. And to me, the amazing thing over these many years that we have existed, with all kinds of problems, amazing thing is that somehow or other there was always something we decided to do or not to do. Maybe not total consensus. Recently we voted on something. Trustees, we always vote, but usually there's consensus. But recently we voted, 2 people yes, 7 people no, or something like that. But if we've all listened, we've all been heard, we've all had our say, and maybe all of us have considered the whole thing spaciously, then, wonder of wonders, something emerges to be done or not to be done. And the fact that this has always happened, I'm coming back to this faith question, has sort of created a faith in this way of working together, which is not separate from also retreating together, entering silence, meeting with each other out of silence, in groups or individually. All of this goes into this faith that this works. Not perfect, there's no perfection. That's a construct of the mind. So since I couldn't say I have faith in something and then imagine what it is that I have faith in, or even put it into real clear words, maybe faith just means the absence of doubt. Not doubt in the sense of questioning, but these hankering feelings, negative thoughts, pessimism, such movements of the mind, the absence of that. Is that faith? And of course the experience that it has worked and is working right now. And by it I mean being here freely. Uncomplicatedly, simply, unadorned, bare bones. I already hear somebody say, is that all there is, being here, bare bones? It sounds grisly. No, it's not all there is to being here. A question comes up, it's been asked a few times, is that all there is? Peep, 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 and caw, 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 and dadri, dadri. Is this true being of ours just the operation of the senses? Sense impressions, nice sounds, good feelings, beautiful surroundings in the sunshine. No, it's not sense impressions, although the senses are open, non-resisting, in unison, not fighting each other, not excluding each other, open. But this being here, does it need sense impressions? The fullness of it? The love of it? The open undividedness of it is there whether the birds are singing or not. This moment of here-ness, being, now, is all words. But what it refers to is not words. Yesterday or the day before I said, are we together in this? Right now I'll say we are together in this. whether we know it or not. We will end here for today.